Hi, everyone, and welcome to the final day of Manomet's U360 Capstone competition. My name is Chris Boudreau. I'm Manomet's Donor Relations Manager, and I want to thank you so much for joining us for the conclusion of this special event. If you are new to Manomet, we are a science-driven sustainability nonprofit organization, and since our beginnings in 1969, our programs have branched out far beyond our Plymouth, Massachusetts-based banding operation. With shorebird recovery and habitat management, forestry and climate science, fisheries, and more, Manomet has its foundation in science and works with many global partners to create a thriving future for us and for birds. In just a moment, I'm going to turn things over to Laura Babb, who manages the U360 program, but I wanted to mention a couple of quick things before we begin. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a box marked chat. If you don't see it, just use your mouse pointer to hover over the bottom and it should appear. At the conclusion of each presentation, you're welcome to use this chat box to cheer on the students or leave words of encouragement. Also, after the final student has presented and the judges leave for deliberations, you're welcome to stick around to chat with the students or ask any questions that you may have. Finally, if you're unable to stay for the entirety of today's presentation, it is being recorded. We'll share with you in a follow-up email a link where you can watch or share it with others. So again, thank you so much for joining us. And now I'd like to turn things over to Laura Babb.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you all for joining us today for our U360 virtual capstone competition for our third and final day. As the program manager for our U360 Business Sustainability Internship Program, I've had the pleasure of spending the last 10 months working with the exceptional college students you'll meet today and that we all saw the last 2 days. But before I introduce today's presenters to you and we start hearing their perspectives on sustainability, I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you more about U360 and exactly what they've done with us at Manomet this year. At Manomet, we believe that to solve the complex environmental, social, and economic challenges we face, the next generation must be actively engaged and trained to make our world more sustainable. They are the largest generation in history, and known as the climate change generation, they will be disproportionately impacted by today's global challenges. One primary way college students can be part of the solution is through their future careers and workplaces. And students from all disciplines, not just environmental majors, must be prepared to tackle today's urgent sustainability issues. We need increased participation from young people with diverse backgrounds who have the ability to create sustainability solutions that they can bring to any job or industry. However, college students often lack the real-world understanding of practical sustainability, as well as the soft skills employers most seek and are needed to be effective change makers. They need to know how to work with people who think differently from them and how to create practical solutions. And they must possess the professional and interpersonal skills necessary to engage others in problem solving. And these things just cannot be learned through coursework alone. As such, U360 is designed to give college students experience in 3 areas that are vital to solving today's complex sustainability challenges and that are not taught in the classroom. The first is career skills, specifically the ones employers most seek, like professionalism, teamwork, communication skills, creative problem solving, strategic thinking, and a strong work ethic. The second is an understanding of practical, applied business sustainability. Students leave U360 equipped with an extensive real-world understanding of both business management and how sustainability practices can help a company make money, save money, and reduce risks, in addition to being good for the planet and society. And third is the ability to work with people who think differently from them. Solving complex challenges like climate change requires bringing people to the table with different viewpoints, knowledge, and experience. And U360 teaches college students how to do just that. U360 is a 2-semester experiential education and professional development program. The curriculum begins with 6 weeks of educational workshops and skills trainings focused on business sustainability principles, professional communication, time and project management, interview skills, and professional ethics. For the next 20 weeks, each student reaches out to approximately 200 small and medium-sized businesses of their choosing to request an interview about their current practices. Each student interviews up to 30 of those businesses and administers Manomet's Small Business Sustainability Assessment of their environmental, social, and governance practices. In the fall, they interview a variety of business types, and in the spring, each student chooses one industry to focus on. After every interview, the business's data are analyzed, and I follow up with the businesses to give them their sustainability scores and access to our online toolkit that they can use to improve their practices. And a significant percentage say it's likely they'll make changes to their practices as a result of that interview. The 6 million small businesses in this country have a large collective environmental footprint, but are often overlooked and underserved when it comes to sustainability efforts. With time, financial, and resource constraints, small businesses have many barriers that can make it challenging to prioritize sustainability. U360 gives them the opportunity to evaluate their overall sustainability, many for the first time, while gaining tools to help them increase the overall health of their business. And for our students, it's this direct engagement with business owners that provides them with the majority of their experiential education and professional development in U360. And then during the last month of the program, each student creates a sustainability action plan for one business they interviewed with customized, highly researched, feasible recommendations for how the business could improve its sustainability practices. But more on that in a bit. Since piloting U360 in January of 2016 with just 3 students from the University of Southern Maine, the program has grown and expanded substantially. Over the past 4 years, 84 students have participated in the program from 14 universities in all 4 New England states. And these students have engaged 953 small businesses from all 50 states. We hit that 50-state milestone this year, which we're all very excited about. And we're also very proud that U360 is helping to foster women business leaders, as 75% of the students who have participated in the program are female. This year, specifically, 14 students enrolled from 10 New England universities. Over the past 2 semesters, 228 small businesses from 42 states had conversations with our students about their current sustainability. The businesses ranged in size from 1 to 1,400 employees and represented countless different types and industries. Here's a fun word cloud to show the variety of businesses and different types that the students engage with over the course of a year. Again, the purpose of U360 is to train and prepare the next generation to tackle the complex sustainability challenges that will most impact their futures. As such, the program is focused entirely on giving college students the real-world experience and the personal and professional development they need to be effective change makers. Our U360 students learn firsthand how dozens of different small businesses operate. They gain vital career skills and meaningful work experience, see how the principles they're learning in school are applied in the real world, and develop the tools necessary to create a more sustainable world. Most importantly, they learn how to have hard conversations with people who think differently from them, find common ground, and create feasible solutions that make the world a better place. But the students wouldn't be able to achieve the educational and professional development objectives of U360 without the generosity of business owners and other professionals who give their valuable time to the students, people like our esteemed guests today. Each day of competition has had a different panel of judges composed of 2 business or sustainability professionals and 1 U360 finalist from a past competition. I'm pleased to introduce you all now to our panel of judges for today's competition. All right, there they all are. So first we have Katrina Damrell, the program manager for our grocery sustainability program here at Manomet. Katrina is the program manager for Manomet's Grocery Stewardship Certification, or the GSC for short. She has taught GSC trainings for dozens of grocery clients, assessed over 150 grocery stores across the US, coached hundreds of store employees, and analyzed the sustainability data for over 1,000 different grocery stores. Her prior experience includes working for an international carbon neutral certification program based in New Zealand, teaching high school English in Indonesia as a US Fulbright scholar, studying parrots in the Bahamas, and working as a marine science lab technician in Maine. She graduated with honors from Connecticut College with a BA in environmental studies, and she currently serves on the City of Cambridge's Recycling Advisory Committee, which is part of their Department of Public Works. Thanks for being here, Katrina. All right, and next we have Kate Holcomb, who is the director of Canopy Farms in Brunswick, Maine. And Kate is, happens to be a U360 alum as well, but she is here representing the small business that she co-founded and directs today. So Canopy Farms is a rooftop aquaponics startup in Brunswick, Maine that Kate co-founded in partnership with the owners of the award-winning Taoyuan restaurant. As a mission-driven for-profit business, Canopy Farms seeks to grow delicious, healthy food for its partner restaurants, participate in research and information sharing to help advance sustainable year-round agriculture in Maine and beyond, including aquaponics as a viable grow technology, and engage with educational institutions and the community to develop the industry's workforce in our state. Kate holds an MBA from the University of Southern Maine with a concentration in sustainable business and is an alumna of Manomet's U360 internship program. She has worked in a variety of sectors of our food system, including farming, food education, and the restaurant industry. Thanks for being here, Kate. It's so good to have you back.
Thanks. I'm excited to hear everybody's presentations.
Yeah, and last but not least, we have our U360 finalist representative on the judges panel. Emma Cost was a U360 finalist, first runner-up in the Capstone in 2018. And Emma is a graduate of the University of Southern Maine. She just graduated in May, where she studied environmental planning and policy with a minor in economics. She participated in U360 during the spring of 2018 and was the first runner-up at the final competition in Boston, where she presented her sustainability project on a restaurant in Maine. Emma is now working at the Greater Portland Council of Governments, focusing on sustainability and resiliency in the Greater Portland region. Welcome, Emma. It's great to see you again.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on this side of the table.
Still nerve-wracking though.
All right, so now on to the competition. As I mentioned, each of these students will present their sustainability action plan for one business they interviewed this year. To maintain the confidentiality promised to the businesses, the students will not be specifying the business's name or exact location. They'll give biographical information about the business and then present recommendations to improve its long-term viability, all of which must be highly researched, practical, feasible, and most importantly, beneficial to the business's bottom line. They will also specify the 2 recommendations they see as the highest priorities for the business to implement. These students will demonstrate how strong triple bottom line practices can help a business thrive and prosper in a natural world and business landscape that are both rapidly changing, while also attracting, engaging, and retaining talent and customers in the process. Following each presentation, the judges will ask the students questions to challenge their thinking and defend their action plan. The students will be evaluated on their answers to those questions, their presentation skills, and on the quality of their recommendations. They will also be judged on the case they make for how their action plan will benefit the business and increase its resiliency to the external factors most threatening its long-term success. A reminder that even though the students can't see or hear all of you out there watching, you can still cheer them on and applaud them in this virtual space if you'd like. If you feel so inspired, feel free to use the chat feature to share your support and accolades, but please wait to do so until after the student has finished their Q&A with the judges, so as not to distract them with notifications popping up during their presentation. And if any of you in the audience would like to talk with the presenting students or myself after the event ends, please stick around after my closing remarks and we will enable your audio and video. At that time, the judges will go to a private Zoom space to select a winner who will be named Manomet's Next Generation Scholar for 2020, along with each student who wins from the past 2 days of competition. All 3 winners will be announced and celebrated at our virtual capstone reception this Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m., and they will each receive a $500 scholarship prize. In addition to announcing our winners, This evening, we will also feature our Next Gen Scholar panel discussion with 5 of our past U360 winners who are all out of college now and will share their perspectives on the world today through their eyes. If you haven't yet registered to attend this event, the special event this evening, there's a link being posted in the chat box right now where you can register. The Zoom link you used to join us today won't work for that event, so you'll need to register separately for the reception. Before I introduce the first student presenter, I want to say just how impressive, passionate, and knowledgeable all of the students are that I had the privilege of working with this year. I'd like you to all take a second and think about yourself at their age and ask yourself, could you have ever called up business owners and interviewed them? And could you have done what they're about to do in front of us today? The confidence and humility they've gained and the personal growth I've witnessed them experience is quite remarkable and incredibly inspiring. Additionally, this is our U360 class who had the last 2 months of college completely upended by the coronavirus. Because U360 has always been an entirely virtual program, our work together wasn't really disrupted. But as you can imagine, COVID-19 definitely impacted the last few weeks of their outreach and interviews with the small businesses, and the rest of their semester was deeply affected as all of their colleges closed and switched to online learning in mid-March. But the level of grace, maturity, understanding, and acceptance I saw in these students, particularly my seniors, as they face the countless unprecedented challenges that have come with this pandemic, was truly amazing. So suffice it to say, I've never felt more confident that we'll all be in incredibly good hands as this generation starts to take the reins. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Emma Chen, who will be our first presenter. Emma is a sophomore at Mount Holyoke College. She actually just finished her sophomore year, so she is a rising junior, where she studies philosophy and theater arts at Mount Holyoke. She's originally from Henan, China, and this spring, she focused on all businesses and organizations related to the arts. And after graduation, Emma hopes to work as a consultant for creative and artistic companies. And when I asked Emma why she applied for U360, she said, quote, "I wanted to learn how sustainability intersects with business practices. The U360 internship helps me gain technical knowledge about that intersection through various training workshops, but more importantly, it enables me to interview business owners about their practices, and which grounds knowledge about sustainability in realistic challenges." And today, Emma will be presenting her action plan about an art museum in Texas.
Hey, Laura. This nonprofit art museum opened in 1987 in a rural town of Texas. It has 26 employees. It was founded by a renowned contemporary artist who values art and its surrounding land as a unity. The museum presents a permanent collection of outdoor and indoor installations by the founding artists and some other artists with similar pursuits. The museum's mission is to preserve, present, and educate about the founding artists' work and visions. It is unique in the art world as it focuses on how inseparable art and environment are, contributing to the vibrant local art scene. The local town is remote and rural. 74% of local students are identified as economically disadvantaged. The museum impacts the local education profoundly. Its volunteer reading program increased local children's literacy by 10%. As a primary provider of local art educational programs, the museum leads children to see more future possibilities. Despite its inconvenient location, the museum actively participates in local recycling programs. It attends to internal development through communicating with, rewarding, and developing its workforce. In return, employees are committed to their work. The biggest threat to the museum is competition for customers and workforce with its counterparts in big cities. With a local population of 2,000 people, the museum needs visitors outside of the town to increase ticket revenue. but as the closest airport is 3 hours away, visitors can be discouraged to come. And because the museum needs high-skilled labor that a small town lacks, it faces challenges of unfilled positions. It's crucial for the museum to create a competitive advantage to attract visitors and qualified employees outside of the town. Currently, the museum is temporarily closed due to COVID-19. It is crucial to address this short-term threat to sustain future development. On 340 acres of land, the founding artists planted a variety of plants around artworks to signify the connection between art and environment. The museum has preserved and restored the plantations as a written part of its mission for very long. But some plants are reported dead due to the lack of irrigation and broken irrigation system. As the second largest local water consumer, the museum also has a high irrigation need. So I recommend the museum hire a water audit company to evaluate its irrigation system. The company will help the museum to alleviate the plant's damage and have a more efficient irrigation system. Given its large landscape, a more efficient irrigation system will help the museum save money. In an arid climate, we can see that Texas has suffered from different levels of drought for the past 20 years. A more efficient irrigation system reduces the risk of damage to landscape in case of a drought. At the same time, it conserves water and increases the museum's environmental sustainability. As the cradle of founding artists' creations, the museum has unparalleled archives about the artist's work. The museum invites residential artists to create contemporary works based on the permanent collections. It also hires interns from all over the world to diversify its workforce. Yet, these efforts of staying relevant are only in short articles on its website. Compared to text content, online video accounted for 74% of all internet traffic, and 50% of people watch videos online every day. I propose the museum create its own YouTube channel to review its advantage. The channel will include multiple subcategories. One for reviving the museum's archives, one for contemporary interpretations, and the last one to show conservation backstories and its diverse workforce. The channel serves the museum's mission to spread and educate about artists' visions. It tells a diverse, authentic, and engaging brand story. Then, with over 1 billion users watching YouTube every day, it attracts visitors without demographic constraints. It expands museum online visibility to be found during the pandemic. Those created videos are digital assets that can be transmitted to the museum's website, its existing social platforms, and recruiting sites like LinkedIn. This will maximize the ability to draw prospective visitors to make money and potential employees. After engagement with a wider audience, converting them to regular visitors or members is sustainable in the long run. The key is to surprise and inspire them during their repeat visit. On top of permanent collection, enticing events throughout the year make every experience distinct and worthy. The museum currently hosts public viewing of collections at sunset 2 to 3 times a year. It could benefit from increasing the variety of public events to stimulate repeat visit. Different people are attracted to different kinds of experience. Having divisions of public events target different age groups meets the widest possible range of preference to expand the audience. Public events are not expensive to host. With current public programs in place, diversifying them is likely to be feasible with the current workforce. Besides the permanent collection, the museum has 1 to 2 temporary exhibitions per year. Compared to museums in big cities with more exhibitions and easier access, hosting a more exciting exhibitions creates core competitive advantage. Given the complex logistics and cost associations of expanding exhibitions, I propose the museum to analyze the cost and benefit of adding new exhibitions. This strategic planning helps the museum to understand clearly about where it stands in future development. The museum pays great effort on retaining current employees, but it has unfilled positions for 4 to 11 times a year. Its online presence of open jobs needs to be strengthened. LinkedIn report that the job board is a top channel to look for new jobs. I suggest the museum posting open jobs on niche job boards such as art jobs and regional job boards. Having a prepared workforce keep up with more visits incurred by previous recommendations. Overall, I suggest prioritizing evaluation of irrigation system. The initial inspection is free and can be done during the pandemic. It saves money, commits to the mission, conserves water, and reduces risk of landscape damage by drought. The museum will outperform its competitors on cost, well-committed mission, and environmental sustainability. Creating a YouTube channel has an unprecedented potential during the COVID-19. The online network traffic grew almost 40% globally from February to April. As YouTube is the top of internet traffic, launching the channel now would draw more patrons than normal times. The channel maintains the museum's presence during its closure and may incur donations. Additionally, it can be created during the pandemic with original social media staff in place. A well-rounded channel sets the museum apart by manifesting its unique offerings, commit to mission, and salient brand image. It draws prospective visitors and potential employees who appreciate the museum's value. To reiterate, the museum faced competition and closure due to pandemic. My two recommendations combat competition by reducing costs and make money. They address COVID-19 from perspectives of visibility and constant presence. Most importantly, they sustain museum's mission, which drives its sustainable development in the long run. Thank you.
Great job, Emma. I was really impressed with your slides here. And
Thank you.
I was curious, actually. I wanted to know why did you pick this art museum in particular out of all the different arts businesses that you were working with?
Right. I was initially attracted to this museum because it's unique location, because it's in the desert. When I interviewed with the director of the museum, I see the director really wants to commit to sustainability, but the museum is constrained by the location that they have, but they are also unique for their location. So I was really fascinated by this combination of challenge and uniqueness. I want to help this director to figure out a way to address the sustainability challenge, but also sustain their development.
It sounds like such a compelling option in that light, for sure. Sorry, Emma, I'm getting some feedback from not Emma Chen, Emma Koss, sorry. Getting some feedback from your mic. Thanks, sorry. I had another question. I liked your recommendations for the irrigation system, especially in light of it being in a desert. Mm-hmm. And I guess for the YouTube channel, did the director of the museum have a staff person in mind, or do you think, you mentioned that another recommendation was to expand their online job presence. Were you thinking that would be somebody they would hire to manage the channel?
You mean the YouTube channel?
Yes, yeah.
Do you mean the the people who work for the YouTube channel may overlap with the person who work for job presence. So the YouTube channel needs a new hire.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was envisioning too. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
And with YouTube, do you know if are there options either on YouTube or in the museum to create a kind of like VIP pass for like the trustees or donors? If you sign up for a membership, not only can you see the free YouTube channel, but you can also gain insider access to our archives when we do some spring cleaning or something like that. Like,
Oh, yes.
was that like a revenue model that you thought about too for?
Yes, I thought about increasing the membership benefit because I specifically look at their benefits, and the members can attend multiple special events hosted for members only throughout the year. But because the only public events are kind of monotonous for benefits. So the reason why I didn't propose this, because only saying expanding the benefits or increasing the benefits does not sound concrete to me, because there are so many logistics and cost and benefit analysis goes into this process that maybe the director is the best person to make that decision, because I don't want to step ahead to push the decision for them. So I will try, I propose something that through the conversation seems concrete to me and very practical for their current situation. Yes, and for the staff you mentioned, they currently have an educational director and our archive research fellow and a visitor service coordinator. And those three persons can all work on the content creation of YouTube channel, given the educational purpose and visiting purpose, promotional purpose of the channel. So there's definitely enough staff to work on this. And for the job presence, because they're currently closed and they don't have any needs to hire new employees. So that recommendation will be after the pandemic ends. So it won't be overlapping.
Okay, yeah, that helps. And I think the YouTube is such a great idea, especially with the pandemic. Those are my questions. Great job.
Yeah, I'll follow up because I had a few questions about the YouTube channel as well, because I think it is a great idea. Because I can see it solving both the immediate problem of COVID and also the long-term problem of being a rural business that's trying to attract visitors from away. I think my first thought, and this relates to some of the questions that Katrina was asking you, was did you do any analysis or have the chance to talk to the director at all about what sort of costs would be associated with starting that YouTube channel, whether it's equipment or it sounds like you have some staff members in mind, but you know, taking them away from some of their other duties, or did you have the chance to look into that at all?
I was paying attention to their website recently, and I found they wholly updated their website, because I had a recommendation of updating website, but then they have a whole new update of their website. So I see what they are trying to work, and a lot of art museums are trying to work on right now is to increase their online presence. So I'm very positive that a lot of employees are working internally on strengthening their organizations and increasing their online presence. So I'm very positive that they have the capacity to do this YouTube channel. And especially for the archives, they already have some video archives that can be directly put in on the YouTube channel. And they also have past lectures, but those are like in a corner of the website. So it's not very visible. So the YouTube channel is trying to collect all the treasures they have and build a fuller brand image.
Great. That is really good to know that they already have some content they could put right on there. So they could start off with a few things, and that even early visitors would have a lot to look at. And then my question also about the YouTube channel is, would you hope that that channel would make any money directly, or would it be primarily promotional?
I would think it makes money directly because they have many unique performances from the artists, and it's kind of 2 hours performance, and sometimes it's long panel discussions by famous art professors. So I think it not only builds a strong connection of customer base for the art museum to become future visits and future revenues, it can also strongly to become donations because the educational purpose and the work that they are doing.
Great. I don't know, Emma, do you want to ask some questions?
Yeah, great job, Emma. You had a lot of data to support your recommendations, which was nice. I do have a couple questions. I'm just going to tag along with the YouTube questions. I have one. You mentioned they have a website, but how do you plan on promoting this YouTube channel? It's one thing to make a YouTube channel, but how is it actually going to draw traffic? I didn't hear anything about social media, and I know a lot of people promote their channels on social media, so I just didn't know what that kind of area is like for them.
Yes, I actually have thought about that question. So the museum, I researched about the current social media platforms that they have, and they have a strong presence on multiple social media platforms. And its museum, its Instagram has 38,000 followers. So my plan is once the video content is ready, it can be edited and posted on the museum's current social media platforms, so they can transfer followers to the YouTube channel. And when the YouTube channel gets growing to bigger, the YouTube channel can actually attract new visitor, new followers to their current social media platforms too. So it's like a two-dimensional way.
Awesome. I'm glad you looked into that. And the second thing is, you said they have some staffing problems since they're in rural Texas. And I was just wondering, did you think about recruiting at like nearby art colleges? Are there any art colleges there, with people graduating at an unstable time? Is there, some students they can recruit or whatnot?
So the museum is working on this by building an art educational program. So they kind of teach students from when they're at a young age and recruit them back as interns. But this is a long-term process. So from my conversation with the director, it seems that the position they're empty is not top management positions. And top management positions are usually recruited by referral. So the kind of lower level jobs are recruited through the job boards. So I chose the highest exposure one, which is job boards, and then career websites. Yes, right.
Awesome, thank you.
I did. Oh, sorry, I'm already so. Before we finish up, I did want to just touch on the irrigation audit question. So I think that the audit is a great idea, especially right now. It wouldn't disrupt service for any visitors because there are no visitors. But I'm wondering about, this irrigation audit in theory could save money if they could then invest in the necessary changes. Yes. Do you know if they have the potential? It would be great to have that information, but then they need to have the funds to act on it. Do you know if they're interested in investing in those types of systems right now?
Yes. So during the interview, the director mentions that they already have a well on their landscape to irrigate, but the director didn't tell me what way they distribute the water. Mm-hmm. And then I see the restoration plan, which is part of their mission. So it's very important to their museum's core value of saying the plants are dead and the irrigation system is broken. So I think there is a strong correlation, like incentive for me to propose this water audit to evaluate the well they already have and the irrigation, what is the problem of the irrigation system, and address their core value mission problem of the dead trees. And during my conversation, I felt the director said so many times that I really want to promote the sustainability, but I'm constrained by the desert location and the recycling station is very far, something like that. So I felt this step is actionable and it's very cost efficient. So I would propose this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that does it for me.
Yeah, I'm all set too. And thank you, Kate, for asking that question about the irrigation system. And thank you, Emma, for that answer.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations.
All right. Thanks, Emma, for that presentation. Our next student is Mallory Strain. Mallory just finished her junior year at Suffolk University, where she is an economics major. She's majoring in economics with math and government minors. And Mallory is originally from Casco, Maine. And this spring she focused on the wedding industry. So all businesses related to pulling off weddings, large and small. And after college, she hopes to pursue a PhD in economics. And when I asked Mallory why she applied to U360, she said that she applied because she was starting to become very aware of sustainable practices in her everyday life and her own impact on the environment. And she wanted to find an internship where her field of study would intersect with the environment. And U360 seemed like the perfect fit, and she thinks that it was. So today, Mallory will be presenting her action plan about a brewery in Wyoming.
Thank you, Laura. This taproom brewery has been in operation for 6 years and currently has 9 employees. They only serve beer and mead, and they do not serve food. They offer their beer and mead on tap at their bar and house, and they sell to external distributors, including bars and grocery stores in the Midwest. They also have an online ordering service where you can get their mead mailed to you in 38 states. The brewery is located in Wyoming, away from the major tourist attractions. Therefore, most of the brewery's clientele are locals. The strengths of this business are their social media presence, reviews online, and that they offer a unique product that is not available at many places in the state. The business has 5 stars on Yelp, Facebook, Google Reviews, and TripAdvisor. Their website is well designed and easy to navigate, and their social media is engaging and popular. The business also uniquely offers mead, a popular drink that is not offered by their competitor. This brewery has character. They base their menu, decor, and atmosphere around ancient folklore, differentiating them from their more mainstream competitor. The brewery does not have Wi-Fi or TVs, with the intention of avoiding the distractions brought on by technology. This brewery aims to foster friendships and community by limiting technology and promoting conversations between guests. After several months of most of us being isolated at home and perhaps using too much technology, a space that promotes forming friendships and avoiding technology is something the community sorely needs. These all give the business a competitive advantage. The 2 greatest external threats to this business are climate change and competition. Beer relies on robust supplies of barley and hops, and mead relies on honey. Each of these drinks require vast amounts of water for their production. Given that climate change has led to a shortage of water in the West, as well as shortages in crops required to make beer and mead, climate change poses a significant threat to this business. The competition faced by this business is another brewery in the city just a few blocks down the street. The brewery's competitor has been in business longer and offers a food menu, making them a strong competitor. In order to mitigate the threats caused to this business by climate change and competition, I have several ideas the business may consider implementing in order to cut costs while lowering their climate impact. I recommend that the business conducts an energy audit with Wyoming's Department of Environmental Quality. Because the production of beer and mead is an energy-intensive process, this business will reduce long-term costs by having the most energy-efficient equipment possible. Wyoming's Department of Environmental Quality offers an energy audit program, which gives grants to cover most of the cost of an energy audit for the small businesses. Additionally, Wyoming's Economic Development Agency will sometimes provide funds for updates and replacements recommended by the audit. My business qualifies for this program, which will allow them to receive a customized energy savings plan while paying a small fraction of what an energy audit would typically cost. Energy audits for businesses of this type typically cost between $2,000 to $4,000. With Wyoming's Department of Environmental Quality, the business would just need to pay a $100 fee. The audit would reveal ways the business can cut down its energy use by 10 to 35% on average, leading to a corresponding reduction in expenses on energy. Participating in Wyoming's energy audit program will uncover how they can increase energy efficiency and reduce expenses at very low upfront costs. I recommend that this business hires an accountant. Currently, the owners conduct all financial duties on their own. Given the unexpected changes in revenue and operations due to COVID-19, this would be an optimal year to have an expert review their finances. Meeting with an accountant at least once a year will provide this business with valuable expertise on where to reduce costs in order to save for future investments. The owner may consider meeting with a CPA annually to assist with filing their taxes and to review the business's financial reports. Adding this expertise will not only save the business owner valuable time, but will reduce the risk of making any mistakes in their taxes. Having a CPA to review financial reports will give the owner an objective view of where savings can be made and revenue can best be allocated to grow the business. Diversifying decision-making by adding the expertise of a CPA will also incorporate checks and balances, strengthening the overall foundation of the business. To further reduce risk, I recommend that the business writes an employee handbook. The business owner may consider hiring a lawyer to help review the handbook to ensure all relevant policies and procedures are covered. This business began with just the 2 business owners and family friends as employees. Therefore, procedures around interaction between employees didn't seem necessary at the time. Now that the business is expanding and non-family members are being hired, protocol should be established for all employees. Without an employee handbook, the business is vulnerable to disputes and potential lawsuits. Having an established set of policies and expectations for employees demonstrates that this business treats employees equally and has protocols in place for when problems arise. This is especially important for this particular business, given that employees are working in an environment with consumption of alcohol. A handbook will reduce risk for the business owner by preventing problems among employees and lawsuits. Additionally, the handbook will improve conditions in the workplace by providing protections and guidelines for employees. The time and money spent on the development of a handbook will be well worth the time and money saved as the business grows. To help eliminate any unnecessary spending, I recommend that the business switch to paperless receipts. Paper receipts are not only poor for the environment, but they are costly. Because Wyoming has very few recycling facilities, the brewery does not recycle any of their waste. This makes limiting paper waste especially important. Given the average price of a receipt and the amount of customers this business receives per day, I estimate that switching to a paperless receipt system will save the business anywhere from $1,000 to $3,650 per year. Shifting to a paperless receipt system will increase profit margins by reducing costs while cutting down on the brewery's environmental footprint. By the same token, the installation of a low-flow toilet will reduce costs. Brewing uses a lot of water, and water in the Midwest is expensive. On average, it takes about 7 barrels of water to create 1 barrel of beer. In this water-intensive business, cutting down on water usage in any capacity will yield significant savings and improve sustainability in the long run. The simplest and least expensive way to increase water efficiency at this business is to install a low-flow toilet. The investment of around $300 will reduce the toilet's water usage by about 50 to 70%, leading to a 50 to 70% reduction in its associated costs. As the price of water in this region of the US continues to rise due to shortages, the return on investment in water-saving technology will rise too. By following these suggestions, the business will improve their competitive advantage while helping to mitigate the threats climate change poses to their operations. While all of these recommendations would be beneficial, I suggest prioritizing the energy audit and hiring an accountant. Given the energy-intensive nature of the business, the majority of the cost savings can be made by first conducting the audit. Similarly, the investment in the expertise offered by an accountant will strengthen the overall foundation of the business. This brewery began with 2 owners who left their day jobs for this venture. Nearly all of the responsibilities have been on their shoulders since they started the business. Now that they have had several years to start and grow their business, diversifying responsibilities to add new layers of expertise to their foundation will propel the business forward. Conducting the energy audit and hiring an accountant will increase the brewery's sustainability for years to come. Thank you.
Great work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I had a question about the energy audit. I think that given the fact that it would cost them $100 for the audit, it's a no-brainer. I think that really makes a lot of sense. And I think you might have mentioned this, but maybe I didn't catch it. In terms of upgrades, were those also subsidized based on recommendations?
Yes.
There's funding for that?
Yes. So there's another program with the Wyoming state legislature that helps to subsidize the less expensive upgrades that you can make. For example, LED lighting is something that the Wyoming state legislature will help to fund because it's more of the kind of low-hanging fruit in upgrades. So the energy audit is especially important because that is almost all people that apply, almost all businesses that apply do get the grant for the $100 energy audit. And the other funding that's provided for upgrades is more limited, but there's still a lot of funding available for businesses that apply.
Great. And do you know if the audit is just looking at equipment, or is it also looking at employee behavior and sort of company systems?
Just equipment.
Okay. And did you, in the interview, were you able to find out what percentage of their equipment is currently Energy Star or efficient?
Yeah, they don't use any energy efficient equipment currently.
Great. Then they definitely need the audit. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great job, Mallory. That was a really great presentation. So I noticed that your big picture threat was competition. Which recommendation do you think would help compete against that other brewery who has like a competitive edge on them, and why?
So, I mean, my answer is all of them, just because I think that all of the recommendations help to cut operational costs. And when I was thinking about competing with this other brewery, something that I thought about a lot and spent a lot of time looking into was how good this business, like the brewery that I'm talking about, how good they are at getting people in the door and retaining customers and giving customers a positive experience. And because they have such good reviews and they have such strong social media presence, I don't think that they need my help with getting people in the door. I think that they have a really good relationship with their customers. So why I kind of chose to make all of my recommendations geared towards cutting costs and kind of making investments in operations is because I felt that those were the best way to stand up against their competitor, because they have really good relationships with their customers, but their competitor has been there longer and their competitor is a bigger business. So I think whichever of my recommendations will cut their costs the most will give them the best chance against their competitor. And I believe that the energy audit will lead to the most cost cutting.
Great, thank you.
Great job, Mallory. I thought this was a really strong presentation, and the makes me want to go travel to this brewery. Sounds fun. I had a question. I know in the very beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that they stand out against their competitor with the mead that they make, the honey mead. I guess and you mentioned also some of their threats are either competition or climate change. Did you look at, I guess, a couple questions here. So did you look at, I'll focus on the food, on the supply chain. So did you look at like the barley, hops, and the honey, like the bees? Do they try and differentiate themselves with working with bee farmers, or would that have been a way to differentiate themselves further from their competitor, or was that not?
That's an interesting question. I didn't look very far into their supply chain and their suppliers. I would say the mead differentiates them kind of on its own just because their competitor doesn't offer it. The beer, on the other hand, they do work with local farmers for the barley, but I didn't look that far into how different their suppliers are from their competitors' suppliers. So that's a really interesting thought that I actually hadn't given any time to. So. Okay.
And then when you mentioned that they had like a mail mead to you, did I hear that correctly? Okay. Is that something that that struck me as a way to still stay competitive right now with the pandemic, especially since their business model is so focused on person-to-person interactions, which can be done safely, but they have to be very conscious of that. Did they mention, I'm not sure if you had the chance to ask them how the pandemic was affecting them, or if they were anticipating to invest more in the mail mead, I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of a catchy phrase for that right now, but is the mailing their product, is that something that you think that could be a short-term way to remain solvent?
Yes.
Not that they're at risk of solvency, but.
So I did think about that. I actually went and looked on the website myself, and the problem with the mailing of the mead is it's very expensive to ship liquids. So actually for a case of their mead, it's $20 for the case of the mead, but it's upwards of $30 just for the shipping. So it's not very lucrative for them, just because the options for shipping liquids are just so expensive and are typically more expensive than the actual product itself. So I'll answer in a couple different ways, I think. So because that option isn't great, I looked into online ordering services such as Drizzly, kind of like the Uber Eats of alcohol, and their location isn't optimal for that either. They're kind of like Maine, where their location doesn't kind of lend itself to Uber, Drizzly, DoorDash, places like that, because they're more rural. So those were kind of the two options for me that were the most obvious as far as kind of low contact sales. But something that I did talk with the business owner about is they didn't have to stay shut down for very long. They actually only have 4 active cases in their county. So, and Wyoming was able to open up more than most places in the country because they have the fewest amount of deaths from the virus, and they have a very low case count. So they were able to open up relatively soon, and the virus did impact their operations, but because they have outdoor seating and because they're in a rural area, they were able to kind of mitigate those threats more than other places in the country. So while the kind of air mead or mead by mail, whatever you'd like to call it, while that option is kind of a decent option given the current climate, it's not as cost effective as just kind of letting things calm down and then being able to open up. So they were able to open up weeks ago, so that option hasn't really been explored by them.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for entertaining that divergence. It's interesting to learn about what they're going through. I guess I had a question for hiring the accountant. I was wondering so you said they started at 2 employees, the founders, and now they're at 9. How old is the business, and did they mention like their expansion plans? Was it, I guess, no, sorry. That was a question about the employee handbook. I'm jumping around. How old is the business? So I'm curious.
It's 6 years old. Okay.
And historically, they have handled all of their taxes and filing themselves. Okay. And have they qualified, speaking of COVID, going back to that, have they qualified for any relief packages from the government, or has that helped their bottom line at this point?
So they would qualify. I didn't ask them if they had received any of the funding because I wasn't actually sure if it was kind of appropriate for me to ask about that actually. But they would qualify. So if they were able to get funding, I'm sure that it would help their bottom line, but I just don't know the answer if they have it or not.
And with the hiring an accountant, did you have any interaction with local accountants in the area that maybe might have quoted a savings rate for them, or did you know how much they would be able to save from hiring that type of person?
So the approach that I took was time saved. And when I spoke with the business owners, they said that when they do their taxes, it takes them between 4 and 5 weeks to kind of figure out all of the logistics and get everything together. So instead of talking about money saved, I really thought about what they could be doing with that time instead, and kind of investing that into making new beer, making new mead, hiring new people, working on other aspects of their operations. So that was kind of the approach that I took. And the amount that it would cost for a CPA, for just an annual meeting with a CPA in that area, the average is between $400 and $1,000.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that background info. And those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, great work. I think I'm all set too.
Woohoo! Congratulations. Good job.
Okay, thank you, Mallory, for that presentation. And last but not least, and really last, so this is our very last presentation from the entire capstone competition. So up next, we have Mark Dougelli Jr. And Mark just finished his junior year at Wheaton College in Massachusetts. So he'll be coming into his senior year in the fall, and he studies economics and business management. And Mark is originally from Connecticut, and this spring he focused on all businesses within the recreation industry. And after graduating, he hopes to go to law school and pursue a career in the legal field. And when I asked Mark why he applied to U360, he said, quote, "I wanted to expand my knowledge on environmental and social sustainability. I felt I had a good understanding around economic sustainability, yet I wanted to have a positive environmental and social impact on my future. There's always more to improve on understanding, and U360 definitely fulfilled that." So now Mark will be presenting his action plan about a farm in New England.
Thank you, Laura. This farm in New England is a family-owned business that has been in operation since the 1920s, 100 years. There are 8 full-time and 50 seasonal employees. Peak season ranges from September to December. Masses of people from all over the Northeast drastically increase traffic in which is typically a quiet town. Their offerings include a country market, animal farm, apple, peach, blueberry, raspberry, pumpkin picking, and overall a Christmas tree farm. The same family has owned the 15-acre farm for 100 years, being passed down generationally. The consistent customer base acts as an attraction to the town. To maintain the customer consistency and profitability, the farm offers a large variety of products, which greatly differentiates them from their competitors. Climate change is a very serious threat facing the farm, as all farms are increasingly susceptible. As temperatures increase more frequently, farms will continue to be impacted. Changing temperature patterns contribute to more extreme heat throughout the year, which is harmful to crops. Due to changing precipitation patterns, there is a risk of flood or drought in the area. Climate change contributes to degraded soil, which leaves crops and soil vulnerable to erosion and water pollution. In New England specifically, there's going to be more flooding, intense storm surges along the coast, and heavier rainfalls in years to come. Annual temperatures in the area have risen 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer annually since 1970. In past years, New England experienced only a few 100+ degree days, and predictions of 20 days of this heat reflect the threat to come. There are many assets of the farm using energy. Currently, the farm does not have any energy saving practices in place. I recommend they conduct a free energy audit. This will provide the information to reduce unnecessary energy costs against the uncertainty due to climate change. Also, it will reduce the business's use of fossil fuels and exploit any unused resources. It will provide 12-month cost data, estimating replacement costs, payback periods, and technical expertise on efficient recommendations. On average, for a business similar to this, savings of approximately 400,000 kilowatts of energy, which translates to roughly $11,000 of savings per year. The business's market is very busy year-round. They still use paper receipts, yet have the proper point of sale technology to go digital. The transition has not been implemented because of lack of confidence in executing it correctly. Records have been kept manually in their books for the last 100 years. I recommend fully implementing paperless practices and eliminating paper receipts. The farm gets approximately 10,000 guests per year, and averaging a 6-inch paper receipt per customer, that makes 4 customers about 1 sheet of paper. With this information, going paperless can save them about 2,500 sheets of paper per year, eliminating any unnecessary paper costs. Allotting time to allow this software company to offer tutorials and train the older generation to adjust to the technology will be very beneficial. It will not only save money, but also reduce costs surrounding climate change. Soil quality is a priority concern for the business due to climate change. A connection between soil quality and increased precipitation is that soil is stripped of its nutrients, altering the makeup. Excess nutrients get washed away to low oxygen zones along the coast. In the midst of soil depletion, the quality of the crop will suffer. I recommend a consultation for a nutrient management plan by a soil conservationist. The business will receive recommendations such as handling procedures, manure guidelines, economic prioritization patterns based on the crop, and many more that benefit the future nutrient richness of the soil. In addition, many states offer a state agricultural planning reimbursement plan in which they allow consultations with soil conservationists financially covered by the State Department of Environmental Protection. Composting food scraps is becoming increasingly prevalent for the agriculture industry. Organic matter in landfills creates methane, yet organic matter going to farms as compost creates more nutrient-rich soil. I recommend hiring an intern through a collegiate agricultural program to form partnerships with local schools and businesses to collect food scraps to turn to compost. This position will research the logistics of turning food scraps to compost, manage the system, and initiate partnerships. This benefits the business from creating their own soil and the cross-marketing of the schools and businesses. The intern can initiate the bagging and the sale of composting soil as a new source of revenue. For example, the piece of machinery necessary is a Jora tumbler composter for approximately $800. Taking this into account and when monitoring sales, the return on investment is 12.5% within a year. Then within year 2, profits take over the amount invested with a return on investment exceeding 100%. And the cost of employment is covered by a class credit provided by the collegiate program. Currently, the business does not have a process in place for formal performance reviews or employee engagement. Seasonally, they experience consistently high turnover rates with no incentives to keep workers. To overcome this, I recommend a system for improved employee engagement. It is necessary to implement formal performance reviews between the general manager and employees. As a way to reduce turnover, 2 formal meetings at the beginning and the end of the season to foster a deeper relationship with employees is very important. In the first meeting, the focus is getting a sense of the employee's interests. This is helpful in determining perks during employment. Following this, there can be job shadowing, cross-training, opportunities with other aspects of the business, or utilizing personal connections to further career goals. Taking an interest in employees by assisting professional development generates satisfaction. By identifying strengths at the beginning of the season, this will show talent that can influence the business throughout the season. Soil is the second largest carbon pool aside from oceans on the earth, making it an important resource. Soil moisture is affected by the increase in average temperature and differing rainfall patterns. The rising sea levels affect the soil because contaminants polluting the quality of the soil. Improving the soil quality can be a very cost-efficient measure of climate action. The prioritized recommendations I choose are a nutrient management plan, consultation with a soil conservationist, and hiring a compost intern through a collegiate program. This is because the shared theme of improving soil quality at a very low cost. Climate change poses a significant threat to the business. New England is an area that is becoming increasingly affected. This farm can improve their sustainability measures in the recommended ways to secure 100 more years of successful business and combat the threat of climate change. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
I like how your 2 prioritized recommendations complement each other and how they really tie directly to your identified threat. So I think that's great. And I think they're both really important suggestions. I'm wondering, couple questions. You said for the nutrient management plan that many states offer support for this. Does the state that they're located in offer that support?
Absolutely. I just didn't know if I could say the state. So
Yeah, I know. I understand. I just wanted to make sure. I figured it was something about confidentiality.
definitely.
Um,
And all the recommendations that are allowed within, like from the nutrient management plan, are also financially covered or partially covered by that plan as well. It's like a reimbursement plan for whatever you spend to get more environmentally friendly.
okay, great. Well then, yeah, that seems excellent. As far as the composting intern idea goes, I do think that an intern is a great idea in terms of not having to burden their existing staff with another task, having someone be able to focus on that. I'm wondering if you discussed with the business at all. I'm not sure if you had the chance to discuss that idea with them and how feasible they thought it was to have an intern. Not that interns aren't great, they're wonderful, but seems like a really big project and responsibility for an intern to take on. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Definitely. So in the past couple of years, they've actually been expanding to have internship partnerships with colleges. And in the initial interview, they had mentioned that. And as they haven't had like an intern with a project as big as this yet, they have been kind of gradually expanding the responsibilities of interns. Like at first, they mentioned like an accounting intern that they had working in like the administration part. And then I kind of entertained the idea to the business owner about having one of these types of interns. And he said, absolutely, they would be more than happy to like work with someone. Obviously the first year wouldn't be as fluid as you would hope because there's a lot of teaching that goes into it, which might take up some time. However, in years future, that could also kind of open up into like a job opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think I see. That's good to know. They already have kind of an existing internship program. I think, given that returning employees and employee engagement is already sometimes a challenge for them, I could see it being difficult to every year start over with a new intern to try and manage that program. Do you think that the staff would be willing to also have the time and space to take that on in part?
Right, that's a great question. I think that at least from their existing programs, they take on a couple at a time, varying age groups. So I think it could be interesting to see if they can make almost like a group of interns work where they have varying age groups in which the younger ones come back to do the same job and kind of create like a way of passage throughout the intern program. I know that they have partnerships in the state that they're in with volunteer agricultural programs, in which they have groups of people come in and work through issues kind of as like a conflict resolution team. So it'd be kind of an extension off of that, which I think would be pretty beneficial.
Great. And then I have one last question, which is just, you said that the energy audit that they could get is free, and also that they don't have any energy saving practices in place right now. Why didn't you choose that one as one of your priorities?
Yeah, so in my talks with the business owner throughout, that's a great question because I was in between those three, the prioritize and that one for the prioritize. In my talks with the business owner throughout the COVID crisis, I kind of asked him what his priorities were now, and they made it through COVID actually. And I said, why wouldn't you want to like kind of prioritize your energy savings? And they said that at the moment now they're kind of at a stalemate with how much more they could, like they kind of ran out of ideas on how to move forward with it. They don't have really any like electricity systems or irrigation systems in place now, so I'm not really sure why they haven't moved forward with it. But I felt kind of that in light of COVID and climate change, that the two prioritized recommendations kind of focusing on soil were the best to move forward with, just because soil is like increasingly becoming more important in light of those threats. So
great, thank you. Yeah, I see how, like I said, those are really complementary too, so makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great job, Mark. That was a really great presentation as well. So just going back to the paperless receipts, so would that mean that they would be sending their receipts to customers via email?
Correct. So the solution there would be to send them through email, like a Square type deal. And with that, there kind of comes a branding bonus associated with the whole low waste aspect. I also figured that they would gain a network of customers from their emails to kind of increase their communication bases. And that's kind of their main way of communicating now is via email. So I figured that like they're not very active on social media, but they kind of communicate newsletters through email. So I felt that if they could go and do receipts through email as well, that'd be kind of their best course of action.
Okay, just wondering, because I know farms are often rural, and if people are giving them their emails, I didn't know if they had the internet capacity in their little shops where they sell their products to actually get that instant receipt to their customers.
Yeah.
If they have the broadband capacity for that.
Yeah, and as I had mentioned, they do have the point of sale technology as well.
Awesome.
So there would be no really additional cost to make that change. It's just kind of trusting the technology to do that, in which like the technical staff can work towards.
And did you get a sense that they're interested in doing that?
The general manager was very interested in it, and the staff as a whole was. It's just really convincing the owner to do it, who's an owning family. So.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Great job, Mark. I thought this was another great presentation and really compelling. And again, I now want to go visit this farm because it sounds like a really fun place to go to. 150 years is quite impressive. I guess I had a question more broadly for you. Why did you pick this business in particular amongst all the other ones that you talked to?
So I chose the recreation industry in the spring. I'm an athlete at school, so I've been surrounded by sports and recreation my whole life. So I actually grew up around this business, and after I had interviewed them, and as we were kind of picking businesses for this, I really wanted to challenge myself and go out of my comfort zone. Honestly, before this research project, I was not familiar at all with environmental sustainability or farming practices at all. So it really forced me to dive into something I was unfamiliar with and challenge myself to learn more about it. And I thought that that was really the main reason why I picked it. And just to see and implement these recommendations, I could kind of watch them before my eyes if they choose to implement them. So
you can keep tabs on them because they're in your backyard. That's awesome. Those are really good reasons. For the nutrient management plan, do you know if I guess something that I've recently learned about with agriculture and definitely awoke recently to the fact that it's, as you mentioned, the second biggest carbon pool behind the ocean, the soil at least is. Do you know if no-till agriculture would be part of this nutrient management plan, or is that something separate that you looked at?
So it is something separate that I looked at, but what I can tell you is that what's the nutrient management plan entails is more specifically like soil tests to kind of test what nutrients are needed in the soil. It gives you like handling and manure procedures to minimize nutrient loss. And there's also like, it gives you more in-depth research to like manure spreading rates, like very specific stuff like that, to kind of maximize the environmental like potential of the soil. So I think no-kill agriculture would have an impact on that, but I think for this business, that would be a different ballpark to kind of.
Okay, yeah, I was curious. Okay, and then with the compost intern in the collegiate agricultural program, are there colleges nearby that they would be able to work with?
Definitely. They, as I had mentioned to Ms. Holcomb, that the previous interns that they had hired were from agricultural programs of the state universities. There's like 2 local universities, and then there's an overall state university that they have partnerships with. And in addition to that, if it's not a university program, there's also volunteer ag programs that they work with and they have current partnerships with.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, I like what Kate mentioned, I do see the synergy between the 2 recommendations that you picked. And I think that that's makes them quite strong. And then can't have to chuckle at the paperless receipts, and hopefully the owner will come around someday. But that also seems like another low-hanging fruit for them too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Those are my questions. Do you guys have any other questions or? All right.
Thank you.
Yay. Way to go.
Okay, with that presentation, that concludes our U360 virtual capstone competition for 2020. So I would love to have all the students come back for a second so we can give everybody a big round of applause. So here they all are. Oops. Waiting for Emma. All right. So yes.
Way to go.
Big round of applause for all of the amazing presentation. And I would like to say a huge thank you to our 3 awesome judges. Thank you so much for being here, Katrina, Kate, and Emma. You asked excellent questions and kept them all on their toes. It was great. It was a lot of fun to watch. So thank you for your time. And at this point, the judges are going to be leaving us and going to a separate Zoom space to deliberate and make what I'm sure will be a very hard decision. I'm really not envious at all. So good luck with that. And the rest of us, myself and the students, will stick around in the space. If any of you in the audience would like to stay and talk with us at all, we can, and you can stick around, and there's a little raise hand function, and we can enable your audio so you can talk with us or ask any questions. And then just wanted to remind everybody again that the actual culminating event is later this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We'll be having our virtual reception where the winners will be announced from today and then the last 2 days of presentation. So Monday was our New Hampshire, Vermont team. I'm sorry, Tuesday. Wednesday was our Maine team, and then today our Massachusetts students. So 3 winners will be selected as our next generation scholars for 2020. And then we will also be featuring our next gen panel discussion with 5 of our past winners from competitions coming and sharing their thoughts about what today's economic, social, and environmental challenges look like through the eyes of individuals who just kind of entered the real world out of college. So I really, really hope you can join us. It's going to be a very special event. And if you have not yet registered for this event, my colleague Chris will be adding a link to register in the chat box. There it is. Popped right up, and so you can click that link and register, and we'll hopefully see you today at 4. But either way, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for supporting U360, and for those of you who have been here every day, thank you for coming and watching all of these presentations. So have a great rest of your day, and thank you, judges. And yeah, and like I said, we'll stick around if any of you would like to chat.
Congrats, guys, again.